John, can you just tell us a little bit about how you came to be in full-time Christian ministry?
Yeah, thanks, John. Basically, I kind of grew up in a Christian home, but I really made a personal commitment to Jesus at the age of about 17. I came to faith at that point, but went immediately off to university. So there was a kind of year in which I didn't really know what it meant to be a Christian, didn't really know what it looked like to be a disciple of Jesus. But as soon as I kind of came to Birmingham, I kind of got involved in the student ministry there, the Christian work there, and very quickly involved in a local church that was geared towards helping students live out their lives for Jesus, basically. And it was in that context, City Church in Birmingham, that I kind of grew into the Christian faith, grew up in the faith. And actually it was at that point as well, really, I began to kind of wonder whether it may be that God is asking me to consider being someone who might be in full-time pastoral ministry, a pastor, teacher of some kind of role. And I guess it's a relatively long story as to how that all came about, but in 2008 we went off to Bible college and trained for Christian ministry there, not quite knowing where we'd end up, not quite knowing what that would look like, but knowing that that was the step that God was kind of leading us to.
And after 3 years at Oak Hill, you came back to Helier Chapel here in Birmingham. Can you tell us a little bit about the church?
Yeah, so Helier Chapel is a church, a small sort of church that grew out of the Brethren movement. Actually, the Brethren were very forward-thinking back in the 1930s, and they decided to plant a church on an estate that was being built here in Northfield to serve Longbridge and kind of the sort of industry that was going on around there. So actually, it was back in the 1930s that Helier Chapel was first formed. A community of believers kind of first came and met here on this estate. And over the years, it's had a checkered kind of history. It's been here for 75 years, and it's had plenty of ups and downs in that time. But really, I kind of got to know the church as I was a student at Birmingham, as kind of in working in Birmingham as well. I got to know the church quite well, and was just very aware that they were at a stage in their life where they weren't too certain what the future held, weren't too sure what it was going to look like. They'd had a very strong past that really celebrated God's faithfulness, but as they looked to the future, they weren't really sure what to do about that. They were down to maybe about 12 or 15 really committed core members of the church, and they just weren't really sure what to do. And they'd seen churches that they were part of a family with who'd kind of been left with just, the last person switching out the lights, and they really didn't want that to happen for them. And so we began to talk together about the possibility of us coming back from Oak Hill and not necessarily planting a new church, knowing that there was a huge gospel need here in Northfield, but not necessarily thinking that a brand new church plant was the way forward. And actually, this church really was open to the possibility of a new gospel witness, then we'd be really kind of up for it as well. So we began a kind of work of revitalisation about 3 years ago, and that's what we've been doing, really. That's what we've been doing the last 3 years.
And what encouragements have you seen over those 3 years?
Well, it's just been massively encouraging in so many ways. I mean, it's really important to put it in the context of, actually, it's been very, very hard work for everybody. I think everybody has really had to count the cost. The core team that came with us to begin the work of revitalisation has been tremendously costly for them. But perhaps even more so, it's been costly for the church family themselves as they've kind of welcomed us in, and it's been a sort of agenda of change, really, from day one for them, which they were really prepared for, really keen to embrace. But actually, the reality of it has been terribly hard. But together, really, the encouragements have been, firstly, that we do have a real sense of unity together. Actually, as we've come through that process together and gone through so much change, we have done so as a church family together in a way that's really represents our diversity, our difference in background and all of that. I think the other real encouragement that we've had is that we're just beginning to make inroads into our local community again. I think when we first came, there was a sense in which, for many people, they thought this building was shut, they didn't know anyone met here, and all of that. And actually, we've just begun to kind of build bridges again into the local community and reconnect with people. I guess one of our greatest encouragement in the last couple of months is that we've had 7 baptisms just in the last 2 months, which have really, all in one way or another, been a celebration of just God taking people out of darkness into light, but through this remarkable kind of odd sort of group of Christians, this church family here in Northfield, that's seeking to reach out to local people. So there's been loads of encouragements really because of that. I think the thing that we're now really learning, the thing that we're sort of learning to do is to live together, to love each other well, and work out what it means to be so diverse and from such different backgrounds, and yet all together disciples of Jesus. So that's our challenge at the moment, I think.
And you're just thinking about joining the FIEC as a church. Do you want to tell us, John, why you want the church to join the FIEC?
Yeah, I think there's a few reasons really. I think firstly, actually, it's been the case that we have benefited massively from the FIEC in a sort of parasitic fashion, if you like, over the last few years. Actually, as we've made decisions as a church family, we've sought guidance and help, and things like model constitutions, etc., statements of faith, etc., that have actually really, really helped us not have to reinvent the wheel, not actually have endless debate about things none of us quite know what we're talking about and that kind of thing, and actually just to have some input, some helpful advice, and have something modelled really for us that's helped us through a difficult process, has been massively beneficial. So I think personally I kind of feel actually it's part of taking responsibility for who we are and what we've come for to really join the FIEC and be a part of that. I think the other thing is that I'm massively excited by the vision of the FIEC actually to be a mission organisation evangelising this nation and re-evangelising this nation, and just the desire to kind of seek out communities throughout the UK that have no gospel witness or very little gospel witness, and to just really have that on their heart as something they want to see God doing and working in. And with that, training up people as well. I mean, we've got a guy with us who actually, it's been tremendously difficult for us to provide ourselves all the training required, the support required to bring him through and send him to college and all of that. But actually, together as a partnership of churches, that process could be an awful lot easier. So I think there's a number of reasons why joining the FIEC is just a great idea for us, really. And yeah, I'm really keen.